no live video preview of Alistair McKenzie and Lazio win again. A coincidence? We're going to talk about it today at Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio Campanile, with me, Alistair McKenzie. Alistair, how are you?
You Italians are far too superstitious.
You think so?
Well, you might have a point. At first it was whether I'm going to the stadium or not. Now it's whether I'm doing videos. But, that's less work for me, so that's okay.
I always blame you. I don't know if you know this.
Yeah, I've picked up on that theme. I'm doing well. I'm much happier today, in much better mood than I was, as you probably would be able to tell in the show a few days ago. So, and Lazio is probably the main reason for that.
Yep. 3 points back. Lazio now that, Inter is still playing, so and it's winning 1-0 against Spal. So Lazio is at the moment 4th, so back in the Champions League spot after 2 bad defeats, one in the derby and one against Stuttgart. But still in a good position, Alistair, I would say, Lazio is.
Well, Lazio in a fantastic position. I mean, this is a thing. I mean, we're not coming on here to claim that everything has been rosy and it's been 100% positives for Lazio so far this season. But if you were offered 3rd place and 5 wins out of 8, and to be ahead of the likes of Roma, Inter, Milan at this stage by the October international break, I mean, we would have been stupid not to take that offer, So here we are, and again, it's, I suppose, a case of getting a good result, but people have still picked up on various points with the performance that they would like to see improvements on. But I think it is the international break for once seems to have come at a good time, and it's been a pretty brutal run of fixtures we've had getting to this point, and we're going to go straight back into another pretty brutal run of fixtures after this international break as well. So I think this is coming at a good time for everyone to get a little bit of rest and crack on from here, because Spal have just equalised against Inter.
Yeah,
so
I was going to say it. Good, I just said Inter is 1-0 and, perfect.
So yeah, while our rivals are having problems winning games they should be winning, we're managing to get the 3 points. That's a good thing.
Yes, absolutely. And another thing I want to talk about is last year against Fiorentina, Lazio played an amazing first half, had the chance to score another goal. In the second half, Fiorentina came out, and in the last 30 minutes, Lazio really struggled, and Fiorentina equalized with a very discussed penalty. This year, Lazio in the first half played well, not as great as last year, scored, had a chance for another goal, but didn't score. In the second half, Fiorentina attacked more, but didn't really create that many chances, and at the end, Lazio come back with 3 very important points. This is, Alistair, a little bit the difference between Lazio of last year and Lazio of this year. Maybe we are not pretty like last year, but we are coming back with more points.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially, I think there is a tendency with this team to be able to resist pressure a bit better than they did last year. There have been spells in many games this season where Lazio have been definitely on the back foot, but have managed to keep things together at the back. And today, Lazio, we'll get onto this, but we weren't playing against 11 men, we were playing against 12 men because Wallace seemed to be wanting to set up chances for Fiorentina all day. But despite all of that, it's another clean sheet. That's another thing that's worth remembering. Lazio in these 8 games have actually conceded 9 goals, which is pretty good return. I know that's still over 1 a game, and some people will be pernicious about it and say it's not good enough. But I think that considering the state of the defence last year, that's a definite improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. Without forgetting that Lazio already played against Juventus and Napoli. So, the 2 top teams, Lazio already played. Napoli allowed 10 goals already. So Lazio has, you can say, a better defense than Napoli and Roma that allowed 10 goals. The other side is last year Lazio would have scored much more goals. At the moment we are only at 11. But that's not the most important part. The important part is the column with points, and it's 15. Lazio's third at the moment, above Sampdoria, Roma, Inter, Fiorentina, Milan. So I don't know, Alistair. I know I would love to see Lazio playing as well as last year, but if the result is allowing less goal and getting more points, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and that's a response as well to the people who are saying that Inzaghi's not learning anything from his mistakes last season. That's the counter argument to it. You can't really say that and then see that Lazio are managing to see out these games, and the mentality has improved in that regard in terms of being able to hold on when you're up against it. And I think something that was made clear in the post-match comments today, and that was quite obvious just watching the game anyway, was that Lazio were basically always going to struggle in the second half today, considering the exertions of Thursday night and the number of players playing today who were down to 10 men for 45 minutes, down to 9 men for 30 minutes on Thursday night. They're going to be tired. I mean, the second half of this game is always going to be a struggle. So, I think you have to take that into account when you're judging the second half performance. And Lazio were quite happy to sit back and try and hit on the counter, and I think they did that pretty effectively. Fiorentina, although they were dominating the game, everyone in the stadium was feeling a bit nervous, and it did have a feeling of one of those games where it's going to be a last-minute equaliser. If you actually review the game, they actually didn't manage to create very good chances in the entirety of that period of dominance. There are a few kind of half chances, a few times when they could have made connections here and there, but Strakosha didn't really have to make any amazing saves, and the shape of the defence stayed pretty solid throughout.
Yeah, I think the biggest save Strakosha had to make was after the assist Wallace made to Benassi. Yeah. So, and again, that was amazing and show how good Strakosha is. By the way, Inter scores, so it's 2-1 Inter at the moment. So Lazio is not third anymore. But going back to Lazio, yeah, the thing is, the biggest difference compared to last season is, for example, today, Fiorentina, I wouldn't say dominate, but had more ball possession in the second half. But then if you go and watch again the match, they were dangerous, but they never shot on target or hardly shot dangerously on target. So obviously, as a Lazio fan, you can feel pressure, you can feel the danger, especially because let's not forget that this Fiorentina, for me, it's more dangerous, more a better team than last year for Fiorentina. They have Definitely. Simeone and Chiesa that are 1 year older, 1 year playing longer in Serie A. They have Piaca that should be a big talent, etc. And again, if you see, they didn't have that many chances. Chiesa was dangerous, but never had a really great chance. And I think this is due to how Lazio defend. And Farris, who was today in the press conference instead of Inzaghi, who lost his voice, said that one of the reasons Wallace came out was with Chiesa playing on that side, Lazio needed a faster player like Ramos to stop him. And I think that after the first time when Chiesa ran away, I thought he did a very good job against what should be the best Italian player at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, Wallace was really struggling just before he came off. Chiesa basically managed to skip past him and get to the byline and cut crosses back, and it looked very dangerous at that time. If that was to continue, I think it would have been a big problem. But, Inzaghi did react to that, and he reacted to that in the right way. I suppose the question is, and the question that we've been asked already, is why Wallace was starting ahead of Luis Felipe in the first place, because this is a guy who was, man of the match in the derby for Lazio. So I'm a bit mystified about the decision to not start him in this game. I think he definitely deserved a starting place after the way he played against Roma. And by the way, I thought Radu coming back into the team after his injury was excellent. I thought him and Lulic down the left, both of them were defensively very, very good today. And that's part of the reason that Pioli decided to move Chiesa off to the left wing instead of to the right, in order to allow him to attack Wallace, but also because he just wasn't getting any space when he was up against those two. But yeah, I don't know if you agree, but I definitely would have put Luis Felipe in from the start today just because of the way he played against Roma. He got to reward that kind of performance in my mind.
Honestly, I was surprised to seeing the lineups, not seeing Luis Felipe. Yes, it's true. He played Thursday in Germany as well as Wallace, just to remember that. But as you were saying, he played also the derby. So maybe, my impression is, maybe he thought he was a little bit tired. And to be honest, before the derby, Wallace was playing well. Now, my question is, isn't this substitution, this not playing regularly, getting in the head of Wallace and making him lose confidence, knowing that maybe at the next mistake I go out, or I'm not the starter for this team? I don't know. Again, Radu had a terrific match, and Ramos, you have to be honest, he's growing day after day. He's really becoming a very solid defender. So I was honestly surprised to see Wallace starting, but again, I was surprised to see him benching in the second half, because that could affect the player's mind.
I don't think so. I mean, I think it was clear to anyone really that Wallace was struggling at that point, and Faris was quite open about that as well. So I don't think it's the worst decision. It came just after what I talked about, where there were basically two moments where he was beaten really easily. So I don't think he can have too many complaints about that. And also, you're looking to win a game, so you can't. Your first thought really has to be, what's the best strategy to hold on to this lead and to win this game? And at that point, it was to get him out of that position because he was having too tough a time. So I don't have any criticism of that. I don't think that he's going to be put down about his playing time this season. I think that he's had far more playing time than he had any right to expect. I've just got it up now, and he's at he's number 9 in the amount of minutes played by Lazio players this season. So he's in the top 11. And, going into this season, remember, none of us expected Wallace to really be anywhere near the starting lineup. And if we all more or less had him on a par with Bastos, and we've hardly seen any of Bastos.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. It looks like in the rotation, Bastos have dropped down a lot. Now you can see more Cáceres playing. Obviously, Ramos is, if not the first option, the second one for Inzaghi. So he got a lot of playtime, and this is affecting Bastos. I was thinking that this could affect Wallace, but you have to be honest and see that every time Bastos playing, he's making a couple of mistakes. So, I can understand why he's not risking Bastos very often.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, Wallace. But going back to this error he made earlier, it's the kind of error that genuinely costs you 3 points and can make a difference between whether you're in the Europa League or the Champions League at the end of the season. It's that serious, that kind of mistake, and we got away with it this time. But this is, I've said this before, but I just don't think it's something that can be coached out of him. He's got this problem where he just has lapses of concentration, or he gets too nervous, or his confidence is down. Whatever the combination of things that makes him commit these errors, they do happen. And look, on his day, he's a very good defender, and we shouldn't forget the performance against Juventus away, against Cristiano Ronaldo. He had his best game for Lazio then. That wasn't very long ago. So we have seen, for people who are saying, how on earth is Inzaghi picking him anymore? It's because of that, because we've seen that Wallace this season. And if that Wallace was playing every week, he'd be in the team every week because he's better than the rest of the defenders. But the thing is, it happens so infrequently, and those kind of errors, he's going to keep making them. We're never going to know when they're happening, but they can be completely destructive and, ruin your objectives for a season if they come at the wrong time.
Yeah. Again, we said it. Strakosha made an incredible save there. And Pioli said it in the press conference. It's not possible that my players miss a chance like that. And he said if Lazio had a chance like that, they would have scored surely. So that could change the match because we were still 0-0. And Lazio obviously was coming off 2 bad defeat. So finding yourself down after a bad mistake, that could affect the performance of the rest of the match. So it was an important save for Strakosha, but again, in Serie A, you cannot commit this error. So, and unfortunately, as you were saying, it's not something that you can coach. It's something mentally. So, or you improve and you work on your mentally preparation, or it's gonna be pretty much impossible to fix it.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it, I was thinking about this on my walk home after the game. The way I see it, the only way you can ever really stop this happening is if Wallace is playing in, if he's playing in a different role in a different team with a completely different philosophy. If he's playing in a back four in a kind of relegation struggling English Premier League team, and his job is basically to win aerial duels and to get rid of the ball when it comes near him, I think he would do a good job in that kind of defence. But when he's playing in a back three with a team that refuses not to play out from the back, he has to be composed on the ball. That's a big part of Inzaghi's game is having defenders who are comfortable on the ball and who can help construct the attacks. So within this system, at least, I just can't see it being a long-term success for him. That's not to say I don't think he wouldn't be able to leave Lazio and have success elsewhere. Like I say, in a different kind of a team that's built differently.
Especially because Ramos growing so much that I wouldn't be surprised if the starting lineup of the defense would be Ramos, Acerbi, and Radu for the coming days. So
I think it should be that, though.
Yeah.
Because, picking up on that point, I think that Ramos or Luis Felipe, whatever you want to call him, he does fit that model very well. He's a player who is very comfortable with the ball at his feet, and he times the tackle very, very well, and he reads the game very well. So I think he does fit this system a bit better than Wallace does.
Yep. Let's go to the question we receive. Patrick Bowman, if you still answer question, I wonder how bad referees are allowed to be before they get suspended. I thought Orsato was bad today. I thought there should have been, thinking that Fiorentina finished the match with 11 men, it's crazy. I thought the goalkeeper should have been sent off in the first half for a clear foul on Leva that Orsato didn't even whistle. And then in the second half, there was Correa going all alone against the goalkeeper and brought down. And the defender, now I don't remember who was it, received only a yellow card. I thought that was a clear chance for Lazio. And so I thought it was a red card. Overall, I think Orsato didn't do too bad, but those are glaring mistakes. And there could have been even a penalty for Caicedo in the first half. To be honest, maybe even one for Simeone straight afterwards. But I thought those were very glaring errors, very bad errors.
I don't think the second one was a red card, the one on Correa. But the first one, my instinct was that it was. Especially seeing it in real time, it just seemed like he'd come out to clear the man, clear the danger. And by doing that, I mean taking the man as well as the ball. And it wasn't just the way that he cleared out Lucas, which you can do legally or semi-legally. It was the way that he he basically stuck out an elbow into his face. I mean, if you do that anywhere else on the pitch, the outcome's going to be a red card. So I don't see how it wasn't there. And especially considering how far out of his box he got, he was clearly out of control. And the thing that annoys me in football just generally is how protected goalkeepers are. You see crosses coming in or corners coming in and someone's standing, they jump alongside a goalkeeper, the goalkeeper falls over, they win a foul. These are the biggest guys on the pitch. So how is it fair to allow a goalkeeper like Lafont, who's probably about a foot taller than Lucas, to come in and charge him and smash his arm into his face and leave him on the ground and not even give him a yellow card? That was the thing that surprised me the most. I at first I thought it was a straight red, but the fact that he wasn't even booked for it.
Yeah, that's...
And the other thing, sorry,
Yep.
the other thing that I find crazy is just the inconsistency, because this was a game full of yellow cards. I mean, the number of yellow cards by the end, I think, was about 6 or 7, and people were being booked for all sorts of things during this game. A lot of them correct, but not all of them. And then that happens, and he's not going to book someone. I found it amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing if you think that Strakosha was booked and Fiorentina's goalkeeper Lafont wasn't. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. And the other point, as you were saying, Lazio had 5 yellow cards against 3 of Fiorentina. Doesn't make sense. Yeah, Lazio struggled in the second half, but how many fouls did Fiorentina make? And no one would deserve a yellow card. So, didn't like Orsato overall. I thought that was the 2 biggest mistake he made. Massier asking... Yeah, go on, sorry.
Sorry, just to pick up on that, I was going to say, this is something we've talked about before after the derby, and I have to say I did like Lazio's fire today. You know, that's something that we've criticised him for in the last 2 games, is not having that kind of fire in the belly character and really looking determined and ready to ruffle up the opposition. And they really had that today, and, you know... You can criticise that because it came out the wrong way and sometimes was too aggressive, and that's why there are lots of players getting yellow cards. But I think they really, they made Fiorentina very aware of their presence today, and I don't think in a bad way at all.
No, I totally agree with you. But if you think Strakosha was for wasting time, Correa was for simulating in a penalty box, which honestly... Then all the time Chiesa was going down. What he should have been sent off, because he tried he dived so many times in the first half that was ridiculous and never got a yellow card. So, but as you were saying, I thought it was great because in the first 30 minutes Lazio was really fighting. You could see them pushing a lot, and that was nice to see after the last 2 bad performances Lazio had. So you can see that finally the Lazio had the eye of the tiger that we didn't see in the last 2 matches. Going back to the question, Massier asked, where should Wallace play in January 2019? A. Lazio. B. Lega Warsaw. C. Jazz Club in Rome. D. In Salernitana with Bastos.
In Salernitana with Bastos. That wouldn't surprise me all too much, to be honest. I think, look, it's worth keeping him in the squad for the full season unless we're going to replace him. It's that simple. We don't have enough of an abundance of options in this position to be able to say that he's messed up so badly that his time is gone. But, I mean, I did say in my post-match report today that this is the kind of performance and the kind of mistake that is probably going to lose him his place in the team, in the starting preferred starting 11 anyway. So I don't expect after a game like this that he'll probably be as high up in the pecking order as he was before, but I also doubt it's bad enough yet that the club's going to be looking to get rid of him in January.
I think it's very hard because he has to want to leave the club, and obviously knowing Lotito, he has to get the right offer, so it's going to be really complicated. I don't see him unfortunately accepting to move to Salernitana, for example, so that's an option we can exclude. I think he will stay at Lazio. The question is what he's going to do next summer. Is he going to stay, or is Lazio going to try to sell him? Especially because, as we said, Ramos is growing match after match. I think he's going to be the starter, and he's young. He can play Europe League and Serie A. So don't think there's going to be a lot of other chances for Wallace going further. So we're going to see. Maybe he's going to push to leave Lazio this summer. Don't think this winter, if something huge comes, a big team comes and offer a lot of money to buy him. But I think it's going to be really hard. Again on Twitter, Cosmin Vladulescu, sorry. 1. Too many Fiorentina occasions. We are not scoring like last year, and the defense is not okay. Correa, Berisha, Patrick should be started in my opinion. Top 3, Immobile, Strakosha, Correa, flop, Wallace, Marusic. Yeah, we talk about Fiorentina occasion, but they didn't have that many chances. They weren't very dangerous. And we saw Berisha today playing. And it's good to have him on the pitch. I don't know, Alistair, what's your thought about Correa performance today?
Yeah, I mean, he served his purpose quite well. Like I said earlier, he basically was brought on at a point in the game where Lazio were or at least Inzaghi was willing to admit that his team were too tired to be able to be on the front foot and dictate the tempo in the same way that they did in the first half. So they were basically looking to soak up pressure and hit on the counter-attack. And having a guy like Correa coming off the bench is going to be a far more effective tool to basically exercise that strategy than having someone like Caicedo on the pitch. And we saw that, a couple of times with Correa. He's got amazing pace. We can see that. He can run with the ball very confidently. I'm starting to have certain concerns about various aspects of his discipline, I suppose. And like you said, he got booked for diving tonight. He was sent off on Thursday night. He already had that 3-match European ban before he even arrived at us from Sevilla. So I think he's a very useful player, and he will, he offers something that otherwise this team doesn't have. And we've said before, it's basically the Felipe Anderson card, and it is very similar. He's the kind of explosive, pacey player that we have as an option. But Inzaghi is one who kind of likes to plan each game as it comes, and I don't think Correa should be in the team necessarily every week. I think it's useful to use him against opposition where that kind of explosive pace and trickery is going to be a useful asset, which it won't be every week. But it's been a good start, I think.
You know what? I'm surprised a little bit. Usually, Argentinian player has what they say la garra, the fighting will, etc. I don't see that much in Correa. He's fast, he has got pace, etc. But last Thursday he has been sent off not because he was fighting that much. He made a stupid tackle, which wasn't red card for me, but that's another discussion. And today he's been diving in the box. I would like to see a player, and I was expecting as an Argentinian player to come in and, as you see Simeone, for example, Fiorentina, every time he has the ball, he fights for it. He doesn't look like someone who's fighting for every inch. That's a little bit the negative aspect about Correa. But he's fast. He can change the match. We have to see how he do things when he starts instead of coming in the second half.
Yeah, this is the thing. I mean, the situation reminds me a little bit of Lukaku last season, where we expected an awful lot of Lukaku at the start of the season. And then come January, we'd basically settled for the idea that this is a guy who's quite useful to bring on for the last half an hour to use his pace and power to get some success on the left wing. And obviously they're very different players. I'm not trying to compare their attributes, but I mean that Correa's abilities being that of kind of pace and trickery. The way he's going at the moment is more like he's a very useful impact sub than a player who's going to change a game from the start. But I think that's far too harsh a judgment to make at this point, because we really haven't seen enough of him from the start of games, and I think we're going to see more of that, because we've got so many games coming up, and also Luis Alberto's struggling a lot. But I think we might have expected to see a bit more of him from the start by now, but I suppose you have to give a credit to Felipe Caicedo for that, because he's the reason he hasn't, is that he's put himself in the discussion for starting more games.
Yeah, it was a little bit surprising seeing Caicedo starting today. Faris said that they realized Friday night they had only one day to prepare this match, and they noticed that probably with Caicedo, Fiorentina would have struggled and Caicedo would have been more effective there. He had a couple of chances, to be honest, who missed them. But again, with Caicedo on the pitch, Ciro Immobile scored. I think that's not a coincidence.
Yeah, it's a promising partnership, and it worked to great success against Genoa, which was the biggest win, the best performance of the season so far. So, to be honest, when I saw that he'd been selected today, I wasn't unhappy about it. I thought it could be a good move, especially given the way that Alberto's been playing. So, yeah, it's just another option, and it's a different way of playing as well. It is at least a bit different from, we've said before that Inzaghi's team is sometimes a bit too predictable in the way that they play, and actually having Caicedo alongside Immobile changes that a little bit. Although today, I don't know if you noticed this, but I thought that the way they were playing was quite different from the Genoa game, because in the Genoa game, Caicedo was the one who was playing off the shoulder of Immobile, and today it was the other way around. Immobile was the one who was playing a bit deeper, and I think it's more effective with Caicedo being the deeper player, actually.
You think so? I think like that, yeah. It's better for Immobile, like they played today.
Because I think the way that Caicedo played, at least in the Genoa game, by being the deeper player, meant that the ball came to him more often as the pivot of the attack and the guy to build it around. And that's where he's useful, is that he can take the ball into his body and protect it and draw in defenders and then move it on to the more dangerous players. Whereas Immobile, he buzzes all around the pitch, but you didn't really see Immobile in the positions you want him at certain points today, which is in the box. He'd be, on the edge of the box putting in crosses, or he'd be coming into the midfield, and Caicedo would be the one up there. And we know by now that Caicedo isn't a good number 9. So in my mind, at least, I'd like to see Immobile be the one leading the line, and Caicedo being there to kind of, be the platform to start these attacks.
I think with Caicedo, it's more 3-5-2, while with Luis Alberto, there's this problem of leaving Immobile too alone in front and playing like a 3-5-1-1, sometimes 3-6-1. So that's the big difference in having Caicedo instead of Luis Alberto. We have to see with Correa, because Correa can play in both positions, as a trequartista or as a striker near Ciro Immobile. Alexander Mikkelsen asks us, which of the two players do you appreciate the most? Capitano Rocchi or King Ciro? The one Bandiera in thug times, the other scoring as he likes and making Laziali dream big again. I still pick Rocchi, although Ciro is getting close. Who would you pick, Alistair?
Yeah, I saw this question earlier. It's a real head scratcher. I think for me, it's I mean, he mentions tough times, and I suppose that's the reason why. But I'd say probably Immobile for me now. It's his scoring record has just been so sensational, and at such a competitive time, that he's really helped take this Lazio team from being an outsider for these Champions League positions to being a real contender, and his form is one of the main reasons why. And Rocky, there's plenty to love about Rocky, but I think that Immobile's impact at this club long term is likely to be even bigger than Rocky's if he keeps it up. But then again, it's a bit harsh to ask this question on a day that Immobile scored a winning goal. I'm a bit biased, probably.
Yeah, the thing is, Immobile is able to make every ball a dangerous chance for Lazio. That's his greatness, I think. And between the two, I would still go on Shiro. But for me, maybe because I'm old, the idea of Lazio striker is still Beppe Signori. He was the greatest by far. And he wasn't playing in a great Lazio. And he has been for 3 seasons the top scorer of Serie A. So when we're talking about great Lazio strikers, for me, it's always Beppe Signori.
Doesn't take much to get you talking about Signori, does it?
Yes, sorry. Another interesting question comes from Jeppe Rode Nielsen. How do you rate our set pieces with and without Luis Alberto?
They're much better with Luis Alberto. That's quite a simple answer. I mean, Alberto's his statistics last season for the amount of assists he got from set pieces were very impressive. I don't think he's been delivering to the same extent this year, but he is much more dangerous on a dead ball than anyone else in this team, and Lucas, for me, isn't nearly as effective at it. But we're just not really threatening from set pieces full stop this season. We're conceding a lot. We've actually, I saw today, we've conceded more goals from set pieces than any other team in the league so far this season with 3.
But we scored today for the first time, and Luis Alberto wasn't there.
Yeah. No, it doesn't count, though. I mean, it's not a Lucas assist. It's a Radu assist.
Yeah, but it was from...
I know what you mean. It's
okay.
a move from the set piece, but... Alberto would be more one who can actually deliver the ball straight on someone's head to go into the net. And yeah, I don't know. I think, Lucas is doing a good job of it, but he's not as naturally adept at delivering the set pieces, I don't think.
Yeah.
But I don't think it necessarily influences or, in a negative way, the attack that much, just because Alberto's not really been at the races this season to the same extent.
I was surprised to see Leva taking them today. Even when Correa came in, still Leva was kicking the corners, the free kick and so on. I thought, with Correa in, he should be the responsible for that. So that was surprising. But at least we scored on a free kick and we didn't allow a goal from the free kick. But obviously without Luis Alberto there is a problem there, because he was Luis Alberto or Cataldi, who I think is the other solution for the free kick. Ramiel Gendi is asking, can we go for Lazzari again in January? I think we can try, but seeing how he's playing now, I don't think he's going to come cheaper. So don't seeing Lotito Tare go for it.
No, I'd love to see him come in January. I just think every time I watch him, I think even more that not just that he's a great player, but that he would really fit this Lazio team. I don't know if you think the same thing, but I think he would fit into this Lazio team very easily. But you're right. I think by not going for him in the summer, maybe missed a trick. Now he's been called up by Italy. He's doing good stuff with Spal, who are doing well themselves. And like you say, it's never cheap or easy to sign players in January anyway, let alone players who are some of the most highly rated in their position in the league, which he is now in that role. So I'd be surprised, but I'd be delighted.
I'm not saying that he's going to stay with Spal. I wouldn't be surprised if a big team comes and buy Lazzari this January. But I don't remember Lazio spending big in January. And I don't think Spal will leave him for little money. So I don't see it happen. I wish it would, but I'm not. I would be surprised. Let's put it like that.
Maybe we can send Basta and Wallace in the other direction as a sweetener.
So we should have paid 3 times, right? More. Because not only we're getting Lazzari, we're sending even Wallace there. Anyway. Arvid is asking, whatever happened to the possibility of a Lazio B team in Serie C, Juventus has one. Yeah, if I'm not wrong, Juventus is the only team who had it. And I'm not sure it was a Juventus idea, but I think Juventus was really pushing for that, and they were the only team ready for it. We know Lotito was always against it. There were some rumors that Lazio could have buy a team in the region and make it become a sort of Lazio B, but there were rumors and it didn't work out. There was the chance Lotito buying Bari. That could have been an option. I don't see it happening. I don't believe it's something Lotito likes. He already has Salernitana, so I don't know. And to be honest with you, I don't think this project is working, especially because there's only Juventus doing it.
Well, yeah, it's quite hard to make any sort of judgment on whether it's working, given that only one club is using it. And on top of that, the league has been a complete disgrace this year and has basically only just started because of how long it took them to decide which teams were competing and what the fixture list was. So I don't think that's helped either. You know, I think more teams may have entered youth teams into the league if there was a bit more certainty about what the structure was going to be. But the lower leagues in Italy this summer were a complete disgrace, a complete shambles. So I don't think it's necessarily been the best year for them to begin this experiment. I'm not convinced that it's that worthwhile anyway as an experiment. You know, I do understand the premise of it, that your young players get more experience playing senior football, but in my mind, if Lazio are to win promotion back to the Primavera, the top Primavera league, it's probably as worthwhile them, you know, getting good matches against the best of their age group than it is to be playing against, you know, fourth tier guys who are semi-professional, who are probably just going to kick lumps out of them, and, you know, think of them as being these young fancy guys who they don't really have any time for. I'm not sure how much benefit that's actually going to be for getting these guys ready for Serie A, but maybe that's just me.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. It doesn't look great. You can make, you know, the Serie C a sort of under 25 league. That would make more sense. But, you know, especially now that there's only Juventus, I don't think it's worth it, you know, doing it. By the way, someone asked more updates on Lazio Primavera. Lazio won yesterday against Benevento 1-0. Scafidi scored it in the last second. Lazio didn't play amazingly well, had more chances than Benevento. It's first with 3 wins in 3 matches, but is out of the Coppa Italia. They lost like 5-0 against Palermo and missing a penalty. So it's not going really well. Yeah, of course, it's first in the Serie B of Primavera, but come on, it's Serie B of Primavera. That shouldn't be a surprise. And struggling against Benevento is not a very positive sign, at least for me.
Bear in mind, though, that we talked about this a bit earlier this summer as well, that there's been a lot of changes in that team this summer as well. So, you know, considering it's only 3 games in and they've won all of them, I think it's fair enough to say, you know, give it until the end of the season before making too many judgments, because there's a lot of new players in that team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a new signing still have to play because he's waiting for the transfer, etc. But yeah, still, you know, Primavera of Benevento should be a very weak team. So you should expect more, but especially thinking of what Lazio Primavera was 3 years ago. So, but the most disappointing thing is going out in the Primavera Coppa Italia. That was the only chance Lazio had to play against the big teams, the team in Serie A Primavera. But, you know, things can happen. We're gonna see how things go. Obviously, it's mandatory to get back to the Serie A of Primavera. That's the fundamental thing this year. Alistair, we talked about a lot of positive things. We cannot avoid talking about the banner Lazio fan have shown today before the beginning of the match against Milinkovic-Savic and Luis Alberto.
Yes, I'm glad I said I probably wouldn't forget about this, and I already have forgotten. So thanks. Yeah, I mean, so if anyone hasn't heard about this already, it wasn't inside the stadium, funnily enough, but outside the stadium before the game. Lazio fans unfurled a big banner that basically said that Milinkovic and Savic are like fake talents and that they're only after money. Which I just think is pathetic behaviour. You know, it's not helpful in any way, and it's also just fundamentally untrue, because if Milinkovic-Savic was like that, particularly him, he could have engineered a move away from Lazio this summer easily. If he was really like that, and if he wanted to get out of the club, he could have done that. And you've seen that happen before with Lazio players. So to criticise him for only being interested in money, you feel free to criticise his performances on the pitch, which haven't been good this season, but that just doesn't make any sense to me. And Alberto as well. I mean, how's it going to help the guy turn around his form by going and saying that to him, when, again, it just doesn't make any sense? What's Alberto done to deserve that kind of accusation?
Absolutely nothing. And let's not forget that Milinkovic-Savic received a lot of offers this summer, and he could simply go to Claudio Lotito and say, look, this is the offer. I'm happy. I'm getting much more money than I'm getting here. If you don't sell me, I won't show up at the training, and so you will basically have one less player. And, I'm going to go away in 1 year and you're going to get less money. So, absolutely doesn't make sense. And same thing, Luis Alberto. I think the problem with Luis Alberto is he's having some muscle injury, they're saying, but he lost his confidence. And this is not money related. It's not that he said, okay, I got the new contract, see you later, I'm not playing anymore, I don't care. No. I'm sorry. I thought Lazio fans are amazing, but in the last year or so, they made so many mistakes. The stupid thing in the first match when they said that girls shouldn't go in Curva Nord. That's another stupid thing, and this is another example. And then you say that during the derby we don't do things because the other fans doesn't come to the stadium. Well, you make these stupid banners. I'm not defending you anymore. I'm tired.
And didn't even have the courage to take them into the stadium and show it to the players they're talking about. That I don't get it. I mean, if you're going to make the accusation, make it directly to them. At least have the courage to do that, and they didn't. I just don't understand how they think that's helpful. And it's at a time when Lazio have won a game and got back into third place in the league. Okay, fourth now that Inter have finally gone and beaten Spal, annoyingly. But, this isn't a crisis period for the club. This is a point at which Lazio are still trying to work out where they are. They've started well. They've got results from games that they've not been at their best in, and a couple of our star players haven't been playing at the top of their ability. So it's not a time to be printing out banners, having a massive go at these guys. It's a time to be trying to find the answer to what their problem is and turn around their form. And the other thing I would say as well is just the atmosphere in the stadium today was a bit odd in that regard. It was, the patience for Milinkovic particularly is running thin. Alberto wasn't playing today. He didn't come off the bench today, so I can't say what the attitude towards him would have been like. But the way I saw it, Milinkovic was putting in a big effort today. It wasn't a good performance from him again. I still think he's really not very sharp, but every small mistake he makes, the entire place was erupting with criticism at him. It just didn't come across as being very healthy, and it was just a strange atmosphere because people were happy to be winning. There was a lot of noise and a good atmosphere during the game on the whole, but then there would be these lapses where it kind of fell into quite a hostile environment towards some Lazio players at certain moments, despite winning the game 1-0.
Yeah, no, it's a problem. Obviously, nobody is satisfied with Milinkovic-Savic's performance, but I thought today he was good in the defending phase. Not as good as we wanted to see him when attacking, but you cannot say that he's not trying. Obviously, Milinkovic-Savic will always be that player that does back heel and tries different things. But if you saw him not doing it for all the match, was trying more easier thing, and that's the kind of player you can expect from Milinkovic-Savic. So, it's not fair. You have to support him. He's still very young. He decided to stay, so it's not that he has been forced to. So it's
and also it's also not his fault that people are talking about him as a 120 million euro player. That's nothing to do with him. He's not come out Zlatan Ibrahimovic style and said that's what he values himself at. This is the stories that get put in newspapers saying that. And people are using that as ammunition against him now, saying, "Oh, you're supposed to be a 121 million pound player." Well, he's not saying that. He's just trying to play the best football he can. And like you say, that's a valid point. He's still a very young player. He's still learning things. I mean, give the guy a chance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, it's a shame. You should support your players, and then when the match is over, after the whistle, you can boo and do whatever you want against them. But till the play, you have to support them. Same thing with Caicedo. Let's not forget. Now, after he started playing well, things have changed. But before, it wasn't very easy for him. Every time he was coming in, there were a lot of concern. Other two questions we have. Vlida Glavas is asking why Inzaghi is changing his back line for every game. One game is Wallace, then Ramos, then Cáceres. Honestly, we don't know. My opinion, my thought is that he's trying to change them based on the other team. So, for example, he played Cáceres because he wanted more experienced player in the derby, and so on. It's even true that Lazio is going to play a lot of matches, so he thinks he needs to rotate them, even though Acerbi is never going out. So that's another discussion. But yeah, I think he's changing depending on the other teams they're playing against.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And also, I don't think he sees an awful lot between them. I don't think he's necessarily worked out what his pecking order is in terms of his first choice, his second choice, his third choice. I think he's still trying to work out who he trusts the most. And, like that question said, he's rotated an awful lot and still doesn't really have an answer to that question. Probably today, though, has given him a bit more certainty about Wallace, at least.
Sorry, and Patrick Bowman is pointing out we will need to replace Radu soon. Yeah, he's not getting younger, as I like to say, but again, today he had an amazing performance. And one thing very important, Alistair, I don't know if you agree with me, but that left side of Lazio was amazing. You had Radu near Lulic, and Lazio was very solid there. I don't think it's a coincidence that Lazio was attacking most often on the left side, thanks to Lulic. And again, we talk about Lulic making mistakes, Radu as well, but you can see in the last years, when there is an important match, usually those two never make mistakes. They step up and being really leaders in the pitch. I thought, that's really positive for the team to have them playing like this.
Yeah, definitely. I mentioned that earlier on briefly as well, and I think they were both excellent today. I also had, it was particularly impressive from Radu, given he's just come back from injury, to play like that. But on top of that, I think that it's probably not a coincidence that Radu's return has coincided with the return of that fighting spirit in this Lazio team. I think that he is a great influence on that team. He would have been captain if he'd wanted to be. He's a real leader within this squad, and obviously he's a guy who gets very fired up about matches and about representing Lazio, and he really represents that Lazialità. And I think having him in that team is probably one of the reasons, along with the likes of Lulic, that we did see an improved kind of character and improved kind of mentality in the team today.
Yep. As I said before, they are sort of leaders, and it's good to rely on them. You know, you have that left side that Lazio was really pushing along, and it was really good. Ramil Gandhi asked another quiet performance from Marusic, and how many chances does Inzaghi give Milinkovic-Savic before he drops? Talking about Marusic, well, it's true he didn't have an amazing match, but it's also true that Biraghi, I think he was playing very high, so he should have been the left back, but he was pushing very high, and this obviously was forcing Marusic to play deep and near Wallace, so he couldn't push that much because he had to take care of Biraghi. I thought he had a good chance in the first 10-15 minutes. He put a good cross there, but I thought he played better in defensive than in the past game. Obviously, it's not the player we would be hoping to see, but at least he covered that side very well. And talking about Milinkovic-Savic, I wrote on my blog this week that maybe this was the right time to drop him, but you cannot drop him and Luis Alberto altogether. So if Simone Inzaghi preferred to play Caicedo and drop Luis Alberto, I think Milinkovic-Savic has to play.
Yeah, I thought that after Thursday he may well have been dropped for today. It's been a while since we've seen the best of him, and I thought that the fact that Berisha is now back from injury might put pressure on Inzaghi to take him out of the team. And to be honest, I think that if we were continuing to have games now and have another one midweek and so on, we probably would see that. But the international break has come at a good time for Milinkovic-Savic because it'll give him a bit of time to rest and reflect on how he's been playing and try and improve. So we're yet to really get any sort of idea about what we'll get from Berisha. You know, we saw some of him when Lazio were down to 9 men on Thursday, and then we saw 5 minutes of him today. So you can already see he's definitely got that kind of grinta about him, but he's not technically going to be on the same level as Milinkovic. But yeah, he'll give Inzaghi another interesting option because I suppose part of the problem until now has been that there's no one really pushing Milinkovic to take his spot. I mean, Murgia, for all his qualities, isn't going to be the kind of guy who will give Milinkovic sleepless nights about losing his position.
Yep. Again, we can see if Luis Alberto can play there and if Inzaghi is going to try him. But I think Berisha coming back is really important. Before we wrap up the show and mute Alistair for the last minute like last time, good news about Durmisi. The doctor said he should be able to play again in 30 days, so it's not going to be a huge stop like I expected. And he can run, so he's going to start running again tomorrow in the next coming days, so he should be able to come back in 30 days, which again is really positive. The other thing is, I don't know, Alistair, if you thought the same thing. When I saw Ciro Immobile coming out and Berisha coming in, I thought that was a mistake because pretty much allowed Fiorentina to press Lazio in the box because they didn't have any threat on the other side. I thought that was a mistake from Simone Inzaghi and Lazio's coaches.
I don't think it was a mistake to bring on Berisha, in that I think Lazio needed some extra legs, some energy in the middle of the park to try and win the ball a bit higher up the pitch. But I was surprised that it was Immobile came off, as was Ciro himself. He wasn't very happy about it. But he never is. He's never happy about coming off because he's just a massive competitor, but he couldn't quite believe it today. But he's played a lot of football, and on Thursday he was running, charging everything down for 90 minutes when Lazio were down to 9 men. So I'm not surprised necessarily that he made that decision. But like I said before, I think Lazio were just pretty comfortable soaking up the pressure. And if you've got a guy like Correa up front and you can play on the counter and just basically hit long balls and try and do it that way, Correa's going to have the pace to get on the end of these things. And Immobile maybe wouldn't have that pace by that point in the game. So I think that was Inzaghi's thinking behind it. And, you can't really criticise it. It was just 5-10 minutes at the end of the game, and it's worked. So, fair play.
Well, it was dangerous. By the way, I forgot to mute you, so everybody could hear your answer. But, yeah, I thought it was dangerous, but, at the end, Lazio won. And, again, as we said it at the beginning, it was the nicest, the spectacular Lazio of last season, but the important is getting 3 points that we didn't get last year. And even if Inter won, Lazio is still fourth and have already played against Juventus, Napoli, Roma and Fiorentina. So it's not bad. Of the top 6, Lazio already played against 3 of them. And the fourth is Lazio, so it's only missing Inter and Sampdoria. I think that's really, really encouraging and promising. And the 7th is Fiorentina, Lazio played. So of the top 7, we're only missing Inter and Sampdoria. So really, the next matches could be really positive for Lazio. Of course, with Europe League, it's never easy. You never have time to prepare the next match. As Fari said, he said they had only Friday to prepare this match. So it's not easy, but the table is very promising. And what happens if Milinkovic-Savic and Luis Alberto start playing? Where does Lazio go?
Hopefully we'll find out. Yeah, I mean, there's another, looking at the fixtures, it's kind of a 6-game period after this international break, and they're all within, 3 or 4 days of each other. And it's not going to be easy, Even the smaller games we've got, in inverted commas, are Parma away, and Parma have been going really well so far. Obviously got that win against Inter, and Spal at home. And I would fancy us to take care of Spal at home. They've dropped off since their great opening month, but they won't be an easy team by any at all, really, to get through. And Marseille, home and away, are going to be probably the 2 toughest games of our Europa League group. And then we've also got Inter, enough said there, really, and Sassuolo away, who have also started the season really well. So that's a tough 6-game period, but at least we can, break that up into, again, being a time of the season where you've just got to get through it, and it's 3 or 4 weeks in which Lazio have to play 6 games. But I think the squad that we've got is capable of doing that.
Yes, I agree. As we said, what is missing really is Vice Immobile. So that's the biggest question mark for Lazio at the moment. But I think we can wrap it up here. As usual, if you like the show, you can subscribe to our iTunes channel, subscribe on Spreaker, follow us on iTunes and Facebook, and obviously support us on our Patreon page, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Thank you very much, Alistair.
Thank you.
I'll
see you next time.
Yep, we're going to speak next week, and thanks everybody for following us. Please, if you like the podcast, rate it and review on iTunes. Bye.